Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to today's Sunday edition of Live at the Waterhole. And we've started out at Stony Point down in Betty's Bay. Looks like a cloudy day, but always nice to start the day with an ocean view, certainly. But I hope wherever you are, that you're having a wonderful Sunday. And thank you so much for joining us and for joining me. My name is Ben Coley. I will be with you for the next 2 hours. And we will visit a variety of our cameras in association with Africam all the way around the country. We have got cameras in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, in Namibia, all over South Africa. And hopefully we will find some very, very interesting wildlife occurrences that we can share with you. And it's live and interactive as it is every day for the next or for these 2 hours. So if you would like to send us in any questions or comments based on what we're seeing, any experiences you've had, anything you'd like to know or chat about, please do so. They will be sent through to me, and hopefully we can have some interesting discussions about that which we are viewing. It looks like a relatively quiet day down at Betty's Bay. Often we have huge flocks of Cape cormorants, the occasional white-bellied cormorants, a few gulls and things as well, and maybe if we're lucky, we'll get to catch up with our little hyraxes or dassies, not diraxes. That's a cross between hyraxes and dassies. Um, but at the moment, it seems one or two cormorants drying out there in the sun, or what little sun is there. Looks like a few patches of blue at least. But always a nice, relaxing view just to gaze out over the ocean and the beautiful topography of the Western Cape. Penelope Kenyon, you're joining us on this Sunday. A very good afternoon, or a South African afternoon, at least, depending on where you are. Greeting myself, everybody in Joburg, the Zoomies, Mika, who's in my ear, everybody else who's chatting with us, and you're looking forward to today's sightings. Okay, so there is a close-up on our cormorants. So we do get a variety of different species within Southern Africa, 4 or 5 of them. Or is it even 6? I would have to go and double check. But Cape cormorants are the ones that we see most of in this area. And that is what they look like, pretty much jet black, with just a little bit of red around the face. The white-bellied, as the name suggests, is fairly easy to recognize with the big white chest. But we will see if we do find one of those. Oh, there is a little hyrax, I think. Yes, looks like the back legs of a hyrax. Oh, and a few more in the background. Very, very cute. They look like miniature bears, don't they? A cross between a baby bear and a beaver, perhaps. Victoria Pont, you've had an excellent day. Well, I'm very pleased to hear that. And now it's time to get comfy in bed and watch Live at the Waterhole, your favourite time of the evening. I assume, therefore, you are east of us somewhere. But yes, settle in, have a nice cup of hot chocolate or whatever your tipple may be, and join us for the next couple of hours and share in these beautiful views. Our hyraxes look a little bit. I've tried to decide if they're looking a little bit inactive or if my screen has frozen, if I'm quite honest, because I see no movement whatsoever. I'm not sure if I'm having one or two technical difficulties, but they are not known. Oh no, I think they are moving. They are not known for their great bursts of energy, these hyraxes. Staring at the camera. No, I think my screen maybe has an issue because this either that or I'm being very much stared out by this hyrax, but beautiful views nonetheless. There's there we go. There is movement there. You see, these are not plastic hyraxes that we put out for the benefit of the show. They are living creatures. This one sitting with its backside on the other one's neck. I suppose it's as good as pillow as any. A good afternoon to Ellie joining us. Happy Sunday to me and happy Sunday back to you, Ellie, as well. And good evening to Carla2275. You're tuning in from Sydney, Australia. Well, it's very late for you over there, but thank you so much for joining us. So Desi's well known for an inability to regulate their body temperature very well. That's why they often sleep in these great sort of cuddle puddles, as I know the phrase has been sort of coined in Wild Earth history. But they like to share their body heat. They don't do a very good job regulating it. So those lovely cracks in the rocks are perfect for them to shelter, keep out of the wind and the cooler weather, using each other's body heat. And then they will often come out and sunbathe on the eastern sides, particularly early in the morning of their domain, and just try and absorb as much of that sun's heat to give them a little bit of a boost for a day's foraging.
Seven nights on safari during the magnificent green season. The rains have stopped, the land is emerald, and there are wild babies everywhere. Meet your favorite presenters.
This is amazing.
And create unforgettable memories on this once-in-a-lifetime adventure.
Thank you for coming along on this little adventure.
The Green Season Grand Tour, only with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive. The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
My name is Takuzwa Panda Msesani. My scariest moment is when it happened twice. The other time I was with Cedric and the other time I was with Steve. And all those times, it was a black mamba. My favorite meal in camp is gonna be burger and chips.
Can you hear that? The wild is calling.
Happy Sunday to you, Jessica, as well. Thank you for sending in your greetings. It feels like a good Sunday here. It is cool and overcast in Hoedspruit. I have to say, last night, in fact, for 3 nights running, we've had relatively clear skies for the first time in probably 6 weeks or so, which makes me very happy. I was delighted to do an event 2 nights ago, a stargazing event in the glacieri, and we had beautiful clear skies and some wonderful views of a variety of celestial objects. And it remained clear last night as well. I was actually able to go out and take some photos last night for the first time in a very, very long time. And there was a nice breeze, and it was cool enough for me to feel the need to don a fleece for the first time probably in about 4 months. So I'm really hoping that the last few days have suggested a change in the seasons. We are, of course, moving into autumn now here in the Southern Hemisphere. And hopefully the temperatures and particularly the humidity, which has been sapping over the last week or two, will start to drop again. And here in South Africa in particular, we have a lovely area of high pressure, the Hadley cell, basically, that just hangs over South Africa during our winter, which pushes all clouds away and stops clouds from forming. And we should end up with month after month of clear skies, which will make me very happy and a lot less stressed, certainly. Hello to Ari as well, also joining us. And Victoria Point, you have said that it's you are in Australia as well. That would make sense why you are tucked up in bed with your cup of cocoa, enjoying everything. Wow, somebody's asked, I don't see a name, unfortunately, what is the top speed of a Dussie? That sounds like a joke, and I feel I should come up with some quick-witted response. But alas, I had a bit of a sleep in this morning because I was still awake at 3 o'clock, making use and taking advantage of those dark skies. So I think perhaps my brain has not fully engaged yet. I have no idea what the top speed of a Dussie is. Not much, I would have thought, although as is always the case, under duress, under stress, or being pursued by a predator, I imagine they could probably go a little bit faster than you think, but I have no idea. Oh, that was Picasso. Sorry, Picasso. Yeah, very good question, Picasso, but I don't know. They've only got stumpy little legs, and they do have a quite a rotund, heavy-looking body, maybe to anchor them to the rocks in case it gets too windy, perhaps. Um, Could you outrun a Dassie? Maybe, but it's going to be a lot more agile than you, certainly in its natural environment on these koppies and in rocky areas. Don't forget they've got lots of special adaptations for living there, including those sort of paws, sort of sweat paws on their feet, which just allow them to grip to the rocks. And they also have just the structure of the foot kind of creates an area of negative space in the center, which almost acts a little bit like a suction cup as well, which is, and that skin being kept moist from those glands just enables them to stick to the rocks a little bit better. Hello, Catherine, as well. Lots of people joining us today. But so it's a good day. It's Sunday. It's a good day to view some wildlife. But let's leave Stony Point for now. We are going to head up to Oldonyo in Kenya. And I wonder if we have either some elephant balls or some giraffe drinking. Let's see. Wow, we certainly do have some giraffes having a drink. Elephant is obviously just finished and is moving off. Oh, I think I just see the ear of another one. Yes, there we go. Classic views from Oldonyo. But how nice is that to see a mirage of giraffe all lined up here? Amazing to see. And so a tolerant elephant who's quite happy there by the inflow pipe. I think I recognise that bull with that big slice taken out of his right ear. Right, Picasso, just for interest's sake, the internet has told me the top speed of a Dassie. I cannot by any means state that this is accurate. It was just from a quick search, but a top speed of 8 kilometers an hour, which is so a slow jogging pace, really. So I think that you would be able to outrun a Dassie should you feel your life was in danger from one of those cuddly little bear beaver things. But yeah, not designed for sprinting, that's for sure. A giraffe, on the other hand, can create quite a rate of knots, as you would imagine, with those long legs. Amazing to see a giraffe in full gallop. Not something you do see every day. Oh, wow, we've got a secretary bird. Fantastic. Saw one briefly here the other day. We just moved out of shot as we got here, but this is one of my favorite birds. I think they're so pretty. Look at those lovely head feathers creating that sort of almost halo effect, and that orangey yellow facial disc. Those facial markings just contrast so nicely with the sort of pale grey surrounding feathers. Very, very awesome to see. Someone else suggesting 18 miles an hour for Dussies that they found online. That Catherine, that was from you. Thank you. You also saying that sounds very fast. That does sound very fast. 18 miles an hour. That's what, about 25, 27 kilometers an hour. That's motoring for a little Dassie. But who knows? I've just got this. Maybe we should have some Dassie racing. Should be the next sport. The Dassie Derby. That massive notched beak. I've really noticed just how notched that beak is. Really designed for tearing flesh. Always look as if they've got sort of knee-length shorts on, or I suppose if it's a secretary bird, a little black pencil skirt. I believe one of the ideas behind the secretary bird is that perhaps those little long feathers behind the head looked like pens tucked behind the ears of secretaries. But you never quite know the etymology of these words. I'm sure there are lots of urban myths. Gina Biddle, you've just woken up in Ohio. Well, I'm glad that you have made us one of your first ports of call, Gina, and that you're also enjoying the secretary bird. Very, very special to see. And I see lots of you enjoying the congregation of giraffes. So I'm going to go with my personal favorite alleged collective noun for giraffe, a kaleidoscope of giraffe. I just think that's such a pretty word for a group of giraffe. Penelope Kenyon, you're enjoying the giraffes. Ellie loving the giraffes. Charlene van Finchard, Feinchard also enjoying the giraffes. Tracy, you're asking what the social structure of giraffes is, basically. Tracy, it's a question that we get quite often, and it's an answer to which I'm shamefully have to admit that I wouldn't say we don't know, but it's a very difficult one to explain because we don't fully understand it because of their ability to be associated with one another without us knowing about it because they can see over the vegetation. What we see as one individual giraffe might actually be part of a larger group because they can see the other members of their social grouping into the distance. But generally, we categorize them as having temporary associations, i.e., there is no strict structure within the group. They tend to come and go. Members drift in and drift out, but as a generalized rule, you'll get solitary males, you'll get little groups of males, and you'll get groups of females with their youngsters. But it's still a relationship that we don't 100% understand.
Become a Wild Earth YouTube member today and unlock extras and bonuses, like ad-free streams so you can stay immersed in your safari without any interruption. Have your burning questions answered first by me or other expert naturalists. Join now to avoid missing out on these amazing benefits. Help us connect people to nature.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions,
Animals rely on their senses.
share your thoughts, and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
I see we've had a few people asking how tall secretary birds actually are. They're possibly taller than you might think, bearing in mind they're being dwarfed by two of Africa's tallest animals in the foreground here as well, with the giraffe and the elephant. But they can stand somewhere between 3 and 4 feet, so just under 1.5 meters tall. So perhaps bigger than you might think looking at them next to elephants and giraffes. It's a little bit unfair, perhaps, to do a size comparison at that moment. But I love the way they strut, and particularly when they start running, they're very, very funny. I was lucky enough to see some in Mabulla in December and saw another one chasing something in Kruger a few weeks ago. So I'm racking up the secretary bird sightings, but they prance through the bush when they run, and they've just got this almost sort of arrogant strut with the way they walk with those long legs. But definitely one of my favourite birds, certainly. Yeah, Kim Faustino, you were saying that it does look small, but in reality, yeah, stands sort of 3 foot, maybe even 4 foot tall. And Gina Biddle, that's your first very good viewing of a secretary bird. Well, I'm glad that we could enhance your life with these views. Very, very cool thing to see. PB and Jam, also enjoying the long legs of the secretary bird. Another nice big elephant bull making his way in. Forge a path through these giraffes. Yeah, Dubois, you're asking about the giraffe and subspecies and species. It's one of those ones that they seem to keep changing. Nobody seems to be quite settled on the official number of species and or subspecies of giraffe. As we get better and better with genetic testing, and have access to more samples, things are seemingly being revised quite a lot. At the moment, there are sort of considered to be four main species: the northern giraffe, the southern giraffe, the reticulated, and the Maasai. These are all Maasai giraffes, of which there are no subspecies. The reticulated giraffe as well is a species all on its own. The southern giraffe, which is what we have here in South Africa, is split into the South African giraffe, the ones we would see in the Kruger and the surrounding area, and then the Angolan giraffe, which I'm assuming is found in the Angola region. And then the northern giraffe is split into three: the Kordofan giraffe, the Nubian giraffe, and the West African giraffe. But originally, there were considered to be one species with 9 different subspecies. The 4 species and associated subspecies is a little bit more recent. But having just done a quick check now, as of this month, people are still considering it. There is no official thing. So yeah, those are the latest. Either 9 subspecies or 4 species split into those subspecies that I just gave you. Really, you're enjoying the ring-necked doves. Yes, it is. Those are, I sort of classify those along with impalas as well. They're things that we see all the time that we dismiss, but are actually far prettier and far more important than we generally give them credit for because they are so commonplace. I was in the Klasiri Game Reserve day before yesterday and was lucky enough to go out and drive, and we were discussing exactly that of just how beautiful impalas are, and we tend not to appreciate them as much as we should. I will always maintain they're one of the prettiest things that we have out here. If you actually stop and just look at an impala and appreciate its beauty, just the way it's put together, the aesthetics of it are really is one of the prettiest antelope species that we have. And yes, a couple of you mentioning the beautiful tusks on this big boy who has come to join us. Charlene and Gina both saying, wow, impressive set of tusks that he has. KJB, good afternoon to you as well. Glad you could make it today. Excuse me. But despite the tusk size, I would still say that the elephant on the left is the more dominant of the two, just based on his location at the waterhole here at Oldonyo. He is the one stationed by the inflow pipe, which would be deemed the best area. He's holding his little bit of territory. The other one has not been interested to try and oust him. And this one is obviously confident enough to not deem the other one a threat in any way. Good afternoon to you, Mercedes Bean, as well. A happy Sunday. Thank you for tuning in.
Join Wild Earth Travel on a unique nature adventure in the Greater Kruger Park. Legendary master tracker Renius Mhlongo leads a 4-day animal tracking experience in the Sabi Sand Nature Reserve. This experience offers a life-changing chance to track Africa's iconic animals on foot with a master of his craft. Renius is joined by Wild Earth presenter and expert storyteller Amy Krantz, and together they will connect you to Africa's wild heart.
Become a Wild Earth YouTube member and unlock exclusive bonuses and benefits. Enjoy uninterrupted, ad-free streams so you can stay immersed in nature. Have your burning questions answered first by me or other expert naturalists. Enjoy exclusive access to special broadcasts and videos, and help us to connect people to nature.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. I really want to film an artwork, and it has been my goal. I'll be just keeping my eyes open. The worst driver is James. He's driving, you gotta be holding on back in there, like in bumps, and I mean, it happens when, these things happens when you're actually going for animals usually. But then, he's driving, you gotta put your seatbelt.
Safari, wine, and waterfalls. The ultimate African adventure. Sip South Africa's finest wines. Experience a world-class safari among Africa's iconic wildlife. And stand in front of Victoria Falls, one of the natural wonders of the world. All this can be yours with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Okay, beautiful views here up at Old Donyo. We are going to go somewhere else, possibly Elephant Town in Botswana. I didn't quite catch, but it'll be a surprise for everybody. Let's go have a look. It was Elephant Pen in Botswana. It was a good guess. And there are some elephants disappearing in between the great Mopani thickets. Good job, they've got a good sense of direction, these elephants. If any of you have ever walked through the Mopani thickets, there are quite a few areas within the Kruger that are dominated by Mopani, particularly if you go up into the more northern region. Oh, look at the little one. And it's very easy to get turned around in there. Everything just looks exactly the same. If you haven't got a point that you can aim for, a big tree in the distance, then you're very much reliant upon your compass. It can get very, very confusing in there. But amazing colours, particularly during the autumn moving into the winter. A lot of those leaves will go sort of an orange and reddish colour. You can just see one or two of them beginning to change now. The different chemicals, the chlorophyll being extracted, leaving behind the anthocyanin, which is one of the things that gives the leaves that sort of reddish colour. And they really are very, very beautiful late in the year. As contrast against the very dark wood that they have in terms of the colour of the trunks and the branches. But a very nutritious leaf. Even the dead leaves, they keep quite a lot of protein and are very popular amongst animals, particularly as we move into the drier season in southern Africa at least. And there is less food available, and of course utilized by many other animals as well. There isn't quite the diversity in these Mopani thickets as there would be elsewhere, which is what happens when you have one species dominating an area, but many species do take advantage of this. So the classic species that we associate with Mopani would be the Mopani worm, which is one of the emperor moths, the Mopani moth caterpillars. We have Mopani psyllids, which are little insects that live on the leaves and actually create the sort of edible waxy coating that they put on themselves. You can often, if you look at the underside of the Mopani leaf, you'll find lots of those little white, almost like nodules. They do have a proper name, but I can never remember what it is. The Mopani fly, which of course is actually a stingless bee, well known to make their nests in Mopani trees. And then because there are lots of natural cavities in those trees as well, we get a lot of things like squirrels and hornbills and other hole nesting birds that like these Mopani areas. PB and Jan, you say that you think there's rain in the air. It certainly does look quite cloudy up there in Botswana, and I'm sure they will be very grateful for the rains. Keep as much water in these pans as possible and hopefully get everybody through the dry season. It was a particularly dry year last year. I'm not sure what the forecast models are for the coming year, but let's hope there is plenty of water to support all of this beautiful wildlife. Charlene, a lovely pool party. Yeah, nice to see such a big group of ellies. Not too many little tiny ones that I can see at the moment, unless they're being hidden by the bulk of the rest of the herd. But lovely to see them paddling around in the water. Captain, you're asking if there's any crocodiles in this waterhole. Captain, I don't know. I have never seen a crocodile whilst I've been watching these cameras here, but that is not to say that there aren't any present. The fact that the ellies are confidently sort of striding into the shallows, even with youngsters, would suggest that perhaps there are not. But as a general rule of thumb, always assume there is a crocodile. And or a hippo for that matter. Just because you don't see one doesn't mean they're not there. Inactive crocs can stay over an hour underwater, and it's generally a good idea not to share a waterhole with a crocodile. It's interesting to watch what these elephants are doing here. If you look at them, a lot of them don't seem to be necessarily drinking. I've noticed this a few times here at Elephant Pan, that it's almost as if they're feeding on something under the water. You can see that one digging for something. And I wonder if there isn't a particular type of vegetation or fruit which is being carried down, or vegetation that's being covered by this water as the rains have expanded the waterhole. Because you often do sort of seem to see them picking things up and putting them into the mouth as opposed to just drinking, which is something I've not really witnessed in other places. So I wonder if there's a particular type of grass that's been covered by the water, or one thought I had was, say, fruits that have been carried down in the floods and deposited in the water in that area. Oh, there's a little one having a swim. Keep your head above water. Does seem to be the only little one in and amongst this whole group, at least that we've seen. Wow, that one could use some Imodium. Probably due to a very rich diet of acidic fruits, I would think, at the moment. There's a second youngster as well. Good to know that that one has a companion. Very much enjoying themselves, having a good roll around in the water. There are a few things that bring a smile to my face as watching young elephants frolicking around in the water, I have to say. It's a very emotive experience to watch them. It's just pure happiness, something I think we all enjoy viewing. Captain, I agree with you completely with what you've said there, that one of the best things about the bush is the silence, only the music of nature sound. Absolutely. We do sort of forget about it. It's interesting, we have some people who come out on safari who actually really struggle to sleep out in the lodge environment because it is just so quiet. People are, particularly those people who live in cities, are so used to the hustle and bustle, the noise of traffics, of sirens, even the hum of electricity. That's why it's so special to go and stay at one of these more rustic camps, or even go camping yourself in a tent, or sleep rough in the African bush under the stars. It's a very emotive experience, certainly. Even just something like having the hum of the aircon drowns out those noises outside, and the silence, as you said, is deafening at times, and it's a powerful experience and something we take for granted, having all of these noises in the background. And there are so many natural noises to appreciate as well, from the wind rustling through the leaves to the animals and the insects, and there is nothing more special than, say, sleeping in a tent out in the bush and hearing branches breaking from elephants, or the bassy rumble of a lion roaring in the distance, the trilling of the nightjars. It's very, very special to experience. Tracy L49, yeah, elephants are surprisingly good swimmers. They are quite buoyant. I can't give you a specific distance, but there are various records of elephants crossing channels, even swimming in the sea in certain places. So they have a built-in snorkel, which helps, and they do float. And they've got those big wide feet, which are rather effective oars with which they can paddle. And of course, with the water taking a lot of the body weight, their buoyancy, it's not too tiring for them to swim either. So yeah, I can't give you specific distances that they've been recorded traveling, but absolutely they are more than capable swimmers. We just don't see it very often in this sort of environment.
Join the Wild Earth YouTube superfan community and unlock a world of additional perks. Get exclusive early access or discounts to Wild Earth travel deals. Wear the best bush attire with merchandising discounts. Enjoy an interactive live monthly private safari. Don't miss out on the ultimate fan experience. Join the YouTube superfan community today.
Gina, you say that you do camp, and you know what I mean by that quiet. So it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people almost find it a little bit uncomfortable being so quiet. We get so, as I say, so used to the hum of daily life that people feel a little bit exposed and potentially even fearful to be surrounded by so much nature. But it's a very good thing to experience. It puts things into perspective and allows you to connect with the natural environment in a very, very special way. So even if you don't like the idea of camping, I do suggest that you all try it at least once. And if you can go somewhere where there is, you know, a good amount of wilderness areas around you, it's a very good way to find a bit of solace and a bit of perspective, certainly. There are lots of people enjoying these young elephants, and leopard lover, you recall when I was at Juma a few years ago and I kept wanting to take all the baby elephants home. Well, I can assure you that I did not. But yes, the thought did cross my mind once or twice. The problem would be, I think, living with it after a few years might need a little bit more space, I sense. But yeah, baby elephants are one of my favorites. Baby elephants and baby warthogs. They always make me smile. PB and Jam, do elephants have long grieving periods if a young Ellie passes away? Um, yes, PB and Jen, they do. It's such a difficult thing. We're talking about when you're talking about something like grieving. It's a human emotion, so it's we have to be very careful as to not um, anthropomorphize everything and put human emotions or read into animals the human emotions and sort of project our emotions onto them. But there is very little argument that elephants understand mortality and they understand death and they react to it and seem to be more reactive to death of their own species than other species. I know recently, I think it was yesterday, there was some elephants playing around with the bones on Chitwa. Now, I'm not sure whether they were any random bones or if it was bones from that elephant carcass, which I know is on Chitwa, but lots and lots of examples of elephants when they do find carcasses of their brethren, be they related or not, they will spend a longer period of time there. They seem to go through some, let's just call it emotional response to it. Lots of examples of mothers carrying their deceased babies around with them for a few days. And there was some studies and some research or evidence found in Indian elephants recently of elephants actually burying their young in various tea plantations where there were sort of trenches. I'm not sure what the trenches were there for, but they were obviously man-made trenches, be it for drainage or potential later planting in that area. But there have been various young elephants which have been found buried in there by other elephants. Looking at all the tracks around there, it seems that they have purposely been placed in those trenches and then covered up with soil and only sort of legs sticking out. It must be a very strange thing to find if you were to come across something like that. And certainly examples in African elephants of deceased individuals being covered by vegetation, whether or not that is, to try and sort of protect them from being scavenged upon, as opposed to a conscious decision to try and sure, I don't even know what the right word would be to appreciate the loss, perhaps is the best I can come up with under the pressure of a live performance. But certainly with their larger brains, they do seem to have a far greater understanding of life and mortality, particularly in their own species. The whole idea of elephant graveyards, not quite so obvious. Do we find sometimes mass die-offs of elephants in particular areas? Yes, but there is usually a reason behind it, be it some sort of geological problem, a poaching incident, um, a poisoning maybe from an algal bloom in a particular waterhole, a disease, and then of course the classic idea of elephant graveyard we believe stems from flooding. So a lot of older elephants end up around rivers because the vegetation is softer, it's easier on their now failing teeth. And then when they do pass away, they pass away close to rivers, which at some point then flood. All those bones get picked up, carried in the flood water, and then if there is a sharp bend in the river, the heavier things like the debris and bones all tend to get deposited on that bend. And when people found that, they thought perhaps all the elephants had gone to the same place to die. So lots of theories behind it, but I would be dubious about placing specific emotions on an animal, particularly what we would consider human emotions. But I don't think there's any argument that elephants have an appreciation of death, and they do mourn individuals, certainly. Hey, 40, you're asking if this is a herd of just female ellies with their young. Generally speaking, yes, that is a classic herd structure in elephants. There will be females, there'll be youngsters, there'll be teenage bulls that sort of hang around on the peripheries, which will be leaving and going off on their own somewhere into their mid-teens, probably, where they'll become a little bit more independent, just like us. So you won't often find big mature male elephants with herds unless it's coincidentally due to good resources, be it food or water. Otherwise, there's potentially one of these females who's in estrus. She's giving off all the relevant signals, the smells, the sounds, those infrasonic rumbles, the hormonal information contained within her dung and urine, permeating through the atmosphere, and that will have attracted the attentions of some elephant bulls in must who are looking for some mating opportunities. I see, just to change tact, Leopard Lover, thank you for your astronomical based question. You do know how I love those. You want to know if there's any South African mythology of the March lunar month, and will South Africa be able to see you're calling it the blood moon, the eclipse, which the total lunar eclipse on the 14th of March, which is due. Okay, so two parts to your question. In terms of the March lunar month, remember that if you're unaware, even the word month comes from the word moon. We have 12 months in a year because there are 12 full moons in a year. And many cultures and religions still use lunar months as opposed to solar months for their calendars. The Islamic calendar, the Mari calendar, the Jewish calendar, some of the African calendars will watch for the first sighting of the moon as it's beginning to wax and get bigger, and that will be the start of their months. So here in Africa, or in southern Africa, there is some relevance to it, certainly in Xhosa and Zulu calendars. So in Xhosa, they call March Ukwindla, which is basically associated with harvest time. Remember that most tribes and most cultures over the years understood the concept of time by watching the passing of astronomical objects, be it constellations or stars visible at sunrise and sunset, the different phases of the moon, the sunrise and sunset points, because that changes throughout the year due to the Earth's tilt. So most of these months and most of these occurrences are associated with a particular activity, and Ukundla in the Xhosa calendar is the harvest time. We are coming to the end of summer. We're coming into autumn now. So when this next lunar month begins, it was a month of harvest before the drier weather moves in. And in Zulu, the third month, the March lunar month, is called Ndasa, and again was seen as a linking time, a change of the seasons that no doubt also prompted them to make sure that everything was harvested because leaner times were coming. And in terms of the lunar eclipse, I'm sad to say that we won't see it at all here from South Africa. In South African time, the partial eclipse only begins at about 7:10 in the morning. The maximum eclipse itself will be about 9 o'clock in the morning, so it will very much be light. The moon will have set by that point, so unfortunately we won't be able to view it. But those of you in the Americas, I believe, will get a beautiful eclipse next week. But alas, we won't be able to see it, and I won't be able to take any photographs of it this time around, unfortunately. Back to the Ellies, hey, 40, yes. If a mother elephant was to pass away and she had a baby, it is quite, I'd say quite normal, but it's certainly not unusual for other females within the group to adopt or look after a young one that she has left behind. Obviously, if that youngster is in need of milk and nobody is lactating, that is a bit of a problem. But they will certainly be looked after by the rest of the group. A very, very close structure. Remember, all of these females and the young males that we see in this herd are most likely related. They're all grandmothers and aunties and mothers and sisters and daughters and granddaughters. So there is very much a social element here, and they all will look out for each other. So the problem comes if a youngster needs milk and none of the other females in a smaller herd are lactating, then we might have a problem. And also depends on the age of the calf, because the milk that a female elephant produces for, say, a 2, 3 month old calf is very different in terms of what's contained within that milk, um, for a calf that is perhaps a year or 18 months old. The the chemicals and the nutrients within that milk evolve as the calf gets bigger. So um, one has to be careful, and it's important in sort of a husbandry perspective as well as that young elephant grows. The type of milk and the percentages of what is in that milk also needs to adapt and change. There have even been examples of herds adopting elephants from other herds. If they find a youngster, they will usually rush to its aid and try and provide for it where they can. Very empathetic, emotional animal, elephants. A lot that we could learn from them, certainly. There's little one's going to come back for another play in the water. Still watching this one on the right. You can see sort of digging at something with that leg. Now, if she was just drinking, I don't see why she would want to disturb the water and get all the mud there, unless she was particularly after nutrients. I'm convinced there's something um, in the soil there that they're after, but I have no idea what it is. I thought one sort of throw something or deposit something just then. This one on the right, maybe a seed, perhaps, maybe some torchwood seeds, some marulas that have been carried down. Not sure. Pierre Dubois is a nice peaceful gathering, as you suggested. Therapeutic visuals for a Sunday afternoon. Danny, you're asking if elephant cows fight like bulls do. Never say never, Danny. I've never witnessed two elephant cows battling for one another. Generally speaking, and I suppose we can equate this to humans as well, it's normally the boys who fight, and normally when they are fighting, they're fighting over the girls. The girls have got more important things to do. They're looking after the family. Oh, I don't want to get labelled as sexist by that statement, but you know what I mean in terms of elephant society. They are looking after the group. They are looking after the youngsters. I personally have never witnessed two female elephants fighting with one another. I'm sure it has happened, but I'm not really sure what they would be fighting over. Because normally, if males do come to blows, it's because of the testosterone increase that they experience during the must period, when they have that extra sort of surge of adrenaline and aggression. And generally, they're fighting for dominance in order to establish mating rights. The females don't have to worry about that. So, other than maybe shoving off an overzealous family member who was trying to get too close to their youngster, or was play fighting with a little bit too much enthusiasm, perhaps. I can't really see any reason why the female would need to get to blows like that. Like I say, never say never. I'm sure it has happened.
Zitatamana wena, moya wa mina, ukomba wena, takuranza loko tamana wena.
It's been a great morning out and about and exploring.
Is that amazing? It's very hard to explain what this feels like.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have two boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very, very proud mama of my two boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
Are you ready for the adventure of a lifetime? Wild Earth Travel's newsletter is your passport to a magical journey. Explore exclusive travel options featuring special offers at stunning Wild Earth locations and all hosted by your favorite presenters. Don't miss out. Head over to our website and subscribe to the Wild Earth Travel newsletter today and stay in the know on all our unforgettable adventures. Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Hello to Jen Mack. You're also talking about the eclipse. You're in London by the look of it, and you say you'll see it at its fullest at 6:19 on Friday morning. So I stand to be corrected with the specific times. As I understand it, I think the eclipse will begin at around about that time. But remember, it takes quite a lot of time for the moon to sort of move through the shadow. So by the time the total eclipse, which will just be for a couple of minutes, where the whole thing goes red and everything, that should be at around, I think, just before 7 o'clock in Greenwich Mean Time. But I have to say, I've just done a quick search online to get the right times for you. But by all means, double check. Particularly in London, there will be all sorts of available resources that will give you the absolute specifics. But there's a difference between when the eclipse starts, when it's at its maximum, and when it finishes. I'd say with us here in South Africa, we are 2 hours ahead of the UK, so unfortunately for us, it will be very much light by then. I'm actually amazed when I went out for a drive the other morning in the Kasiri how much later the sunrise is. Around about, say, November, December, sunrise was around about 4:45 in the morning, I think. The sun didn't come up until a lot later than I was expecting the other day. We had a glorious sunrise and a wonderful drive. All in all, actually, we were lucky enough to find a pack of 16 wild dogs in the Kasiri. I'm not sure which pack it was in terms of a name, but as we caught up with them, they were in the process of finishing off a baby impala. I was being hosted by Julian at Blackfoot Safaris. A great experience, and then about 5 or 6 hyenas wandered into the fray, and we got to see some amazing interactions and those really cool sort of chirping sounds that the dogs make as they tried to chase the hyenas away. They managed to corner one young hyena and gave that one quite a few nasty little nips. But the sounds, I haven't heard those sounds for a long time, and so lovely to see the interactions between those species. We did see a few elephants, and lovely to see these ones having a proper lie down. This one on the left has just decided it's all too much. I'm assuming there's a trunk sticking out of the water somewhere to get some oxygen in. I haven't seen any movement for a while. Very much enjoying a lie down in the water. Youngster almost completely submerged. Okay, well, these have been some wonderful views here at Elephant Pan, living up to its name. I think we are going to head down to Timby Elephant Park now and see if our bulls are around. Indeed they are, our classic collection of elephant bulls at Tembe. I see Charlene, you've been in touch again, so you saw some elephants at Addo and how they came down to the Hapura Dam and how the different groups waited for their opportunity to come and drink. Yes, you often do see that. There's a lot of respect, mutual respect in elephant society between herds. And sometimes you get herds that'll come down and they'll all drink together. They probably know each other. You'll see some greeting ceremonies between individuals. We know that elephants have got great memories. They remember a huge number of individuals. They talk to each other in inverted commas using specific rumbles that it seems that individuals will pick up whilst others will ignore. So there is this sort of idea that elephants have names and they communicate directly with each other, which I think is a wonderful thing to consider. But yeah, often you'll see greetings. And what you often find is, I mean, I know, for example, down in KZN in which reserve is it now? I can't think which reserve I'm thinking of. It'll pop into my head in a minute. But there they've got two herds, both led by the two matriarchs are both sisters. So the herd split at one time, and the two sisters now are the two matriarchs of Pongola Nature Reserve. There we go. And they have Antares and Beetlejuice, if they are still around, are the two matriarchs, and they are sisters looking after their own families. Yes, obviously I remember those names due to their connotations. Beetlejuice and Antares, the two red supergiants in Orion and Scorpio, or Scorpius. always stick in my brain, those two. Ivan, that is an excellent question, and it's probably going to take us down a rabbit hole, so I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts on this matter as well. Ivan has asked on how technological advances are making things better or worse for wildlife, or are they making things better or worse? I suppose it very much depends, Ivan, on your on what you think. The classic answer would be no, it's not helping at all. Wildlife nature has been around for billions of years and doesn't rely on technology and doesn't need technology. So what technology could we possibly bring into the equation that would improve matters? The only technology that we are using in terms of wildlife is ultimately helping us understand wildlife. From a pro perspective, though, yes, we now have the ability to track and monitor and understand and listen to these noises and try and understand these animals better. But does it benefit the animal in any way? No. If it wasn't for humans taking away all their land and poaching them, we wouldn't need to do those things. So is technology helping us from a conservation perspective better understand migration routes and relationships and communication and requirements and resource management of all of these animals? Yes, absolutely. Drones, satellite tags, anti-poaching operations, all excellent, but we only need them because we're here in the first place. So does it benefit the animals directly? Yes, but only because we have caused them hardship. That's my thoughts on the matter, certainly. The only reason these animals need us is because we've put them in areas that we then need to manage. But does it make for an interesting time for us to be living in and learning to understand these animals? Absolutely it does. There are some wonderful pieces of technology that you can get to enhance your viewing pleasure. One of the ones that I've always enjoyed using, I don't own one, but I probably should do, is some of those, I don't know what the proper word for it is, but those kind of radar dishes that the sound amplification devices, and there are people who specialize in doing that type of safari and sound safaris, and you wear a headset and you point these dishes at the animals and you can really hear everything that they're doing and subtle communications between them. It opens up a whole interesting dynamic that we can engage different senses in. But again, does it assist the animal in any way, shape or form? No. And of course, if it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't be able to be broadcasting live safaris, these live at the waterhole shows to you using the magic of satellites and cameras and webcams and internet feeds and things that are way above my head. If we didn't have the technology, all you fabulous people watching from all corners of the globe wouldn't be able to enjoy these visuals and have to listen to me waffle on inanely on top of them. So that could be a pro or a con, very much depending on your how much you're enjoying my commentary.
We love all creatures in the African bush, from the biggest to the smallest, including the tiny little insects and arthropods. But some of them are not as charming as we'd like them to be. So that's why I trust peaceful sleep. And it lasts up to 8 hours too, so I can stay out longer, both at day and night, and not feel like I'm somebody's snack.
South Africa's wild places are closer than you think, because Federal Airlines brings them to you. From the calm of our FedAir lounge to the smooth boarding of our trusted fleet, we take care of the journey so you can enjoy the adventure. Our flights go beyond the ordinary, connecting you to South Africa's most remote and extraordinary locations. Federal Airlines, your gateway to the South African wild. Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
He took a spa booking at 2 o'clock African time, South African time. Catherine, that's a good answer. You're going back to Ivan's question, saying wildlife can benefit from technology that makes watching them less invasive, like infrared cameras, electric vehicles, zoom lenses. Yeah, I don't disagree with that whatsoever. But again, they're benefiting by not having us interfere with them. So if humans weren't around and there was no technology, I would think their life would probably be better. But we are around, unfortunately. So yes, I fully agree with you there, Catherine, that with our presence, which is unavoidable, then we can certainly use technology to improve the lifestyle that they now have in the world that we live in. Absolutely. I've always think it would be a brilliant idea. Night drives are always fun. Go out with the spotlights and look for nocturnal activities and watch the animals that we don't often get to see during the daytime. But I'd love to be able to do night drives with fully functioning sort of night vision goggles and things, so we don't have any lights whatsoever and we can just be at one with them. And yes, far less intrusive. Absolutely. I fully agree with you there, Catherine. EB and Jam, you're saying, would microchipping be better than notching ears of, you've mentioned elephants or rhinos or whatever it may be, to get away from the use of collars? Yes, it would be, certainly. And a lot of them are being microchipped. The problem is with when you're starting to put things under the skin, if you're going to track an animal, then generally that thing needs some form of power, which doesn't last forever. It needs to be replaced. So you still have to dart the animal, you still have to sedate it, which is potentially dangerous. And if this thing is under the skin, you potentially have to do some sort of surgical procedure to get it in there, which leads to more risk for the animal. I remember I worked in a reserve many years ago where one of the lions did have a chip in its stomach, but it also had to have batteries, and they had to be replaced every now and again. So this poor thing had to undergo a procedure every few years to replace those batteries. So a lot of it, unfortunately, comes down to cost, and also the stresses being placed on that animal. However, PB&J, I would agree with you. I'm not a big fan of collars. I understand that it's the simplest and most cost-effective way of doing it, but it's never nice to see an animal with a collar on. It takes away a little bit of the magic and the beauty of it. Gives us an opportunity to talk about conservation and research and the technology that is used and how that has evolved over the years, and what gathering that information is enabling us to do for those animals, certainly. But I've never enjoyed seeing an animal with a collar on. That warthog's also just having a lie down. It seems to be a common theme today, but it is a Sunday after all. Interesting they're choosing to feed here. That grass doesn't look particularly nutritious, but remember with warthogs, they specialize on eating the rhizomes, the sort of the roots of the grass, and they use that big shovel-shaped face just to sort of push over the topsoil and get to those roots. So it may not look like the most nutritious grass, but there'll still be something there. But I wouldn't imagine that the grass here is of particularly high quality. This is a well-trampled area, so disturbed soil. We should be seeing, I would imagine, a lot of pioneer grass species growing in this area, as well as a lot of sort of alien vegetation and weeds and things that spring up out of these areas. But they will eat other things as well. They will eat some fruits, they will eat some seeds, so not sure what he's found there. And of course, very occasionally they will also be carnivorous. They will also, well, not carnivorous, but they will also occasionally eat meat. We've caught on camera traps over the years quite a few examples of warthogs and bush pigs feeding on carcasses, getting that bit of a protein injection, which is not unusual in the animal kingdom. So even a lot of seed-eating birds, when they're feeding their youngsters, they will feed the chicks on insects, even though when they are adults, they will be granivores, so seed-eating birds. But insects do contain an awful lot of protein, which is important for growing animals. 840, you are asking about the birds. Yeah, both certainly things from the Columbidae family, the doves and the pigeons. It looks like we've got some ring-necked doves, the bigger ones, and then the smaller ones, the ones you've mentioned there with that sort of red chestnutty colour under their wings when they fly. There they go. Those are, I assume, emerald spotted wood doves. That's what we have down here in South Africa, but Whether or not there is a slightly different species that is found in Kenya, that I would need to check, but I believe that is the same species. So one of the smaller ones, the wood doves, but yeah, very characteristic with the that lovely chestnut underwing and two little iridescent green spots on their wings itself. There is also a blue-spotted dove. I don't know whether that occurs in Kenya. It's a bird that I've never seen. You've got to go much further north. There are the occasional sightings in the northern part of South Africa, but something that's more common up in the Zimbabwe, northern Mozambique region, I believe. But they look almost identical to the emerald spotted. Here comes one in from the left. You can see those two little dark spots on the wings are actually an iridescent green. And I did go through a phase, particularly when I was up in the northern Kruger, of checking every single one, hoping to find one with blue spots rather than green. But alas, I am still searching. Tracy L49, you want to know why warthogs are called warthogs? Do they actually have warts? Well, not officially warts as what you and I would think of when we think of warts, but if you look at a close-up of a warthog's face, you'll see there are those big sort of calloused protrusions under the eyes, very, very prominent in the males, less so in the females. And then the males also have a second set of those warts, which is actually basically just I can't think of the word, but it's like dried skin, calloused skin. Basically, the males have a second set of warts halfway down the snout towards the tip of the nose. That's one way you can sex a warthog between a male and a female. And the males generally much larger warts under the eyes. It's a visual dominance thing, but also probably more importantly to protect the eyes whilst fighting. As we were talking about with the elephants, two male warthogs will fight over areas and over females for dominance and social status. And the last thing you want to do is get one of those enormous warthog tusks in the eyes. So if you are sort of wrestling nose to nose, those warts in inverted commas act as protection and keep the tusks, or the tushes as they would be known in warthogs, away from the eyes best they can. Whether they do suffer from warts, that particular virus, I've never heard of it. We talked about it the other day in giraffe. Giraffe do end up with these sort of wart type things occasionally, produced by a similar virus as the one that causes warts in people. And in severe cases can look very, very unpleasant and lead to some wounds and some potentially other infection. But not life-threatening, just highly uncomfortable. And nice to see some oxpeckers diligently cleaning up around the warthog's face there. Bit of a jiggly perch whilst this warthog is busy feeding. Gareth, you're asking how do hippo wounds heal if they spend most of their time in the water, and I might add to that by saying generally very dirty water, particularly during the drier seasons. All sorts of horrible things in that water, certainly stuff that I wouldn't want to get into, and all the mud that gets into those wounds. So how do they keep them clean? Well, that all comes down to nature being very, very clever, and those particular secretions that the glands. Oh, there's an eland, nice. The glands on the skin of the hippo produce. So they produce something called hippocyridic acid and norhippocyridic acid is what we call it. But it's a type of gland under the skin, and if you've ever seen a hippo looking at sort of pinkish color, it's often people think it's sunburn. It's not. People often also thought that they sweated blood. It's an old wives' tale. It is that secretion that reacts with the oxygen in the atmosphere and goes a pinkish color. That not only helps to protect them from the sun, but it's also very rich in antibacterial properties as well, and does a wonderful job in fighting off any infections in those wounds and allowing the skin to heal. Lovely to see some different animals here at Oldonia. The warthogs, we've got an oryx, we've had the eland drifting past. Very, very nice to see.
This September, join me, Eric Bonner, for a 3-night luxury safari at Conway Private Game Reserve. Take part in a hands-on rhino collaring experience while learning about the vital efforts it takes to protect these animals. As night falls, Ben Coley will take you on a journey through the stars, revealing the secrets of the African skies. This is more than just a safari. 40% of your stay goes directly to rhino conservation. Play your part in protecting our rhinos. Book this once-in-a-lifetime adventure today.
Every guide in Africa has been on an endless quest for the ultimate bush wear. Until now. Rugged Wear has a huge range of amazing bush gear for every wild situation. In the midday heat, those chilly winter mornings, in the storms of summer. Rugged Wear has the bush kit for every wild occasion. Locally made in South Africa, crafted with precision, stitched with quality.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Best part of the job, gosh, I just love everything about guiding. I love being able to observe animal behavior and animals behaving naturally. So for me, that's by far the best part of the job. And so what we do here at Wild Earth is develop those connections with the people that are viewing and maybe just light a little spark that says, you know what, I want to be involved in protecting this ecosystem.
Join the Wild Earth Explorers program and connect with a community passionate about wildlife. Support our mission to share authentic wildlife experiences with the world. Your monthly contribution helps provide schools and children access to kids' safaris, fostering a love for nature in the next generation. Embrace the wonders of the bush and make a difference today. Wild Earth, connecting with nature. We are thrilled to announce our new exclusive feature for YouTube members and explorers. Join us live every Tuesday for our sunrise and sunset safaris. Experience Tawny Tuesday like never before with up-close encounters and breathtaking moments. Don't miss out. Become a YouTube member or explorer today and immerse yourself in the heart of the bush. See you Tuesday.
Do come during the day, just less frequency. Remember, the majority of the predators, with the exception maybe of things like cheetah, they are designed to be nocturnal animals. Their eyesight is perfectly adapted. They can see brilliantly at nighttime. It gives them the advantage over their prey. They can use the cover of darkness, and it's just the way their circadian rhythms work. Basically, they sleep during the daytime. They digest their food. They keep out of the sun, and then at night time, that's when they wake up and they start their their day, as it were, their activities for the coming hours. So normally they'll say sleep up under a bush in the shade under a tree for 15 hours, maybe even longer, depending on what's going on. And then often one of the first things they'll do when they do rouse themselves and start to go out for an evening's activities is they will hydrate, just as they will after they've fed as well. So it's not impossible to see predators during the daytime. I've just come out of Kasiri. We saw the wild dogs, which are more active during the daytime, moving around. And the day before I arrived, they bumped into a big male leopard walking down the road at 10 o'clock in the morning in about 33-degree temperatures. So never say never, but the majority of activity, regardless of what they are doing, takes place under the cover of darkness. Excuse me. I'd say over the years that I've been doing live at the waterhole, I've seen very few predators on these cameras. But I've seen lions a couple of times. We saw one leopard. I forget which camera it was now. Possibly even two leopards. So they do pop up from time to time. And I remember, I think last week somebody said that there were some lions that came for a drink here at Old Donyo. I can't remember if it was during the night or if it was just outside of our live at the waterhole broadcasting hours. So you must never give up hope. Anything is possible. So there's lovely black markings on the back of the front legs of that eland as well. Maybe that eland's got tennis elbow. I had that not long ago and had to wear one of those straps around the top of my forearm, kind of what it reminds me of, a black, it's kind of bracelet effect going on. Maybe that's some technology we could help animals with. Okay, but it's lovely to see some elands, some oryx, some warthogs, some giraffe. Everybody getting their opportunity now that the elephants have vacated the area. But I think we are going to head over to Tau in Madikwe and see what's happening there. And a mini migration of zebras and wildebeest contrasted against those beautiful yellow flowers and lush green vegetation. Speaking of wildebeest, it was nice. I got to see the last couple of nights. I've noticed Speaker, the brightest star in Virgo in the night sky. It's beginning to become visible by sort of about 10 o'clock or so at night now, also known as the wildebeest star in Zulu culture, when it's heliacal rising, so when it rose in the morning just before sunrise. That used to happen around about the time associated with wildebeest calving season. So as is often the way in African star lore, many stars' appearances are named after the resources available at such a time. So Speaker is the wildebeest star. The Bushmen call it the pig star because it's also the breeding season for the warthogs. You've got Procyon in Canis Minor, which was seen as the male Iland, and nearby Castor and Pollux in Gemini were the Iland's wives. Arcturus is a red hartebeest. Betelgeuse often seen as a lion as well. So lots of interesting animals and characters. So the Canopus, the second brightest star in the sky, is the ant egg star in Bushman culture because again its heliacal rising would occur around about the same time as the breeding season of ants and termites, which is another available food resource. Pleiades was seen as ostrich eggs because of the breeding season of ostriches and good protein available for the indigenous people. Always nice to see lots and lots of different stories or find out these different stories about animals being seen up in the stars. It's just a shame that there are so few stories left. I actually attended a webinar symposium hosted by the Dark Sky Association in Kenya the other day to try and learn a bit more about cultural stories from that region. And we were discussing it during that unfortunately there just aren't that many. They're there, but people pass them down orally. They never get documented, and those stories are being lost. So very important that we try and keep that rich cultural heritage alive. Three stars in Orion's belt were seen as three zebras by the Bushmen as well. They've also been seen as three dogs, three tortoises, a whole variety of things. Obviously, Orion's belt being such a prominent constellation, there are lots and lots of cultural stories pertaining to animal life in that area of the sky.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website. Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature, live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
Gina Biddle, I agree. We've had lots of wonderful animals today. It's been actually really nice to see such a variety. We often have sort of one species dominating this 2-hour session, but we've had lots of varieties today. The zebras, the wildebeest, awesome pool party up in Botswana to see the eland, to see the East African or the Beza oryx, the giraffe, the warthogs. For me, the highlight has definitely been the secretary bird, not something you get to see every day. I'd say one of my favorite things to find out in the bush as well. So we've been very, very fortunate. Beard, why are you asking where Madikwe is? I'm sorry if I didn't say that. We get so used to people tuning in regularly. We do tend to forget that not everybody knows these places. So Madikwe Game Reserve, yes, in South Africa, very close to the Botswanan border, up in the northwestern area of the country. So quite close to Gaborone. In fact, the closest border post from the edge of Madikwe into Botswana is only a few kilometers away. So a huge area and a very good area, malaria-free area as well. But lovely to view. All big five animals are visible, not always visible, are within the boundaries of Madikwe Game Reserve. Of course, Kruger is the most popular and well-known reserve here in South Africa, but we do have multiple other reserves in various other provinces. A lot of activity in the Waterberg region, north of Johannesburg, Pretoria, into the Limpopo. Madikwe down up in the northwest, Kruger in the east. There are reserves down in the Eastern Cape, like Amakhala, where our live safaris are often broadcast from. We have Tembe Elephant Park in northern KwaZulu-Natal. So all sorts of wonderful places that you can visit with a huge diversity of wildlife and vegetation to be found just within South Africa's shores. Captain, I'm glad you've enjoyed spending the afternoon with us. I've just realized we're not too far from the end of the show now. Time has flown, but we've had some wonderful sightings and great to see the secretary birds, certainly. Beautiful views of Madikwe. What a nice way to finish. We are down to the last few seconds of the show, but thanks so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we do, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow, same time, same place, for more Live at the Waterhole action.